And we're going fast this time, everyone. There you go. There's the bell. And before we get knocked off the air again, we're just gonna cruise into this. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Hopefully, Jared, everything's good. We looking good right now? Good. Great. Thanks, Jared, for working behind the scenes, and also Leo. Hopefully, these have been keeping us informed when it works, and hopefully something to get into our production juices flowing again. I think we tried to up the settings here to get better quality, and that didn't work out so well. We're going to stop a few times during this presentation and talk about what's next in our world of production with a very prominent guest today. We're going to have questions after each segment, and then we'll take your Facebook questions, so please send them. And no question is a silly one, and you don't want to hear me talk for an hour, so more questions the better. This Thursday at 2 p.m., Bill Evans, the sax player, is going to be our guest with his engineer, Richard Littner. And I can't encourage you enough to just be part of it. And also maybe at the end we'll ask a question, and the winner will get some swag. So our guest today is Daniel Rivera. Daniel is a Southern California native who has an uncanny passion for audio. Daniel's passion for sound has deep roots in his love for music and mathematics. Daniel has more than 20 years experience working in LA as a technical director, front of house live person, and post-production audio engineer. His current responsibilities as business development specialist, including working with architects, consultants, integrators on various audio projects ranging from PA, active electroacoustics, and spatial sound. Daniel's part of a team at the amazing company Meyer Sound, a globally recognized technology company based in Berkeley, California. Daniel's also worked with tons of house of worship artists and has also worked with acts such as Metallica. So I can hear everybody clapping right now. Let's welcome Daniel Rivera to the show.
Thank you, my friend. That was a mouthful, man. You did that well.
Yeah, well, third time, I didn't even have to look at the script, and I kind of we encourage each other to go off script because, we give ourselves little milestones, but we want to rock out there. So, Daniel, welcome again, and I love your backdrop.
Thank you, my friend. Cool. I invited my friends to the webinar this morning.
That's awesome. And, maybe later on you can show us, in a safe environment after we've, washed the countertops down and we've washed our hands for 20 seconds. You want a nice romantic dinner with your partner. Maybe you can show us how to make a nice cocktail or something, but we'll do that later on.
Awesome.
So where's home for you, Daniel? Where are you?
I live in sunny SoCal, my friend. Huntington Beach, California. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, that's a hard job, right?
Yeah, we suffer through here.
And besides your mixologist passion, what else are you doing at home? Kind of taking care of. I know some of your family works in the trade. I think your wife is actually on the front lines of this, isn't she?
Yeah. So all the women in my life are nurses. So my mom's a nurse. She works at Kaiser here locally, and my wife works in labor and delivery at UCLA. So they're both in the hospital, working currently on the front lines, seeing all kinds of interesting stuff. And we've got all the kids at home. I've got 3 kids under 10, 7, and 3. So my daughter's 3, and they are running around. We've got Fortnite, we've got Call of Duty, we've got the usual suspects in full effect here at my house. So
are they home right now? So will they?
They're somewhere. I think they're outside. Thankfully, yeah, they're out.
Cool. We'll get to it, man.
Yeah, man.
So cool. I think we originally first met in Houston, I believe. We did a presentation together with Meyer and DPA.
Yes,
and
sir.
It was one of the coolest events I've ever attended. You really run a great. You're great with information. You're great with talking to people about the products, and it was a cool event. Tell the folks a little bit about what we were doing.
Well, we were debuting a new loudspeaker at the time, Lena, the newest and smallest member of the Leo line array family of products, and we went into a church and we did a full day of live demonstrations. We brought in a session drummer there from Houston, and we brought in a full drum set, and we mic'd it exclusively using DPA products. Every mic was DPA, and we were showcasing kind of the translation and all the intelligibility and the product that you could, what you could achieve with Lena and DPA. And we didn't use any plugins. It was all natural, very little EQ, if any. It was a very eye-opening learning experience for me, and a great time to hang out with you and really get a really close look at the DPA line and what was possible.
Yeah, yeah, I'll never forget it too, because it was actually the first time that we released a product that we're actually using right now to talk with, which was this guy here. We'll talk about it later, but
Yeah.
that was literally the first day I had it, and we made some recordings there. And I should mention too that there's some files that we've been collecting from all of these events, and Jared is putting them in the Dropbox folder, everything from live music to using this MMA with 2 miniature mics, and they're all available on the Dropbox link that we're going to share probably at the end of all these. That was a really cool event, and what a dangerous combination, right? Was the DPA mics with the Meyer sound system. To me, it was just ear opening. It was really the most true, accurate sound I've ever heard inside of a church or inside of a gathering place. It was just really, really sweet.
Yeah, it was one of the best sounding drum kits I think I've ever heard, Gabriel.
It was cool. It was very cool. And that'll be one of the files, by the way, that'll be up there that we recorded into our iPhone, which is really strange. So when did you know that this was sort of the trade and sort of the path that you were taking in your life? I mean, you sound like a guy, I mean, I know you a little better than not knowing you at all. And I know that you get into a lot of sort of AV stuff as well, and live stuff and house of worship stuff. And it's sort of like, I can understand that because you care about sound. So those tentacles reach out to a lot of different types of things. So how long have you been doing this? When did you sort of realize that this was what you wanted to do?
It's a great story, Gabriel, because I started off playing music. So I've been a guitar player my entire life, went and played professionally right after, took a year off of college to go play professionally, and went on the road. And I remember going to a church in LA and auditioning to be in the band. I played guitar, and I said, okay, well, I'd love to volunteer and play guitar. And post audition, they told me, hey, you know what? We've got enough guitar players. We don't need a guitar player. But if you'd like to join the sound team, our friend Chris could use some help. And I remember it was a kind of a line in the sand moment for me, because I was pretty offended, not to be honest. Yeah. I was like, hey, I came here to play guitar, and I'm smoking. So why am I, going to join the sound team? I don't know anything about sound. But I took that opportunity and actually joined the sound team to make tapes. I was recording cassette tapes. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a little device with some, never mind, but cassette tapes, right?
And I was too young to know what cassettes are.
I was using a Panasonic Showstopper, Gabe, which was pretty much a device like a prototype to TiVo. And we were using that to pause while we flipped the tape, if that makes sense, because you had to flip the tape because the message was longer than 30 minutes, the side of a tape. So I joined the sound team, and that kind of set me on a course, passion for audio, used my, went to school for computer engineering, so I was always into, pedals and technology, and always had my kit was always really dialed in. So just kind of applied that same kind of thinking to audio, and really developed a passion and got deeper, and ended up being a technical director in Hollywood for about a decade, and then found myself at Meyer Sound, which is, it's pretty much been a dream job. I mean,
yeah, that's Hollywood for manufacturers. It's interesting too that being a musician, that's kind of the way I started. And I've also had some bouts in designing churches, systems, as well as playing the band a little bit. Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said for a musician that goes over that line, and I think quickly you get the feeling that the artist that you're now mixing, you have a better rapport with them. They understand. You understand what they're up against, and they sort of understand a little bit of what you're up against. And it's weird because when you get engineers who know nothing about what they go through, I always tell engineers in the church world, like, hey, go sit in on a rehearsal. Yep. See what's important to them. Their monitor mix, of course. Everybody's always turning everything up. Shut everything off. Like, listen to things one at a time. See what their battles are, and then they can see what your world is like. And it's hard, especially in the smaller churches, because we have professional musicians, we have not professional musicians, then we have that drummer that doesn't know what dynamics are. And then we have engineers who go from here to here. Fantastic. And guys just volunteering. And it's sort of, can you talk about any of that, like how to wrangle that, and what methods you use to sort of like because it's a lot of responsibility, right? When it goes wrong, everybody's complaining. When it goes right, everybody hears the sermon, they worship, and they go home.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great resource when it comes to that, bridging that gap between the stage and, the front of house. And really it's relationship. That's what kind of it boils down to. Most of my house of worship favorite front of house engineers, guys like Chris Greeley, they're amazing musicians, right? They know they know how to tune drums. They know how to play guitar. They know a lot about bass tones. So they've taken the time to hone their craft and get to learn enough to be dangerous in all those different areas where they've earned respect. And I think that's what's important, is just making sure that you know.
And you hit it on the head when you just walked in with your guitar. It was like, hey, we need help over here. You quickly learn what a team environment is. And we constantly have to beat ourselves down to say, well, today I can't slam the drums. I need to go mix or something like that. It's an interesting world to me, and there's definitely all different levels. So what is your favorite sort of choices of equipment when you mix? I know your favorite console, your favorite obviously you dig our mics. I know you do, and there's some other mics out there as well. But what's your setup look like? What do you try?
Yeah, as I get old, say, when I was young, I was all into like the latest and greatest toys, and now it's more about, I feel like my whole mixing philosophy as I got older has been just simplify, intensify, right? Really good source material, really good microphones, not a whole lot of, sauce and flavors, and just very, organic and very raw. So I like,
That's awesome.
It's not so much about the console. It's more about, what can we do? The reason why, I love the DPA stuff is that it's just so literal. Like what you get in, it's almost like a conduit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you get in, you get out. So if you have something, if you've done the work on the front end, you're going to get a pretty good output.
Well, I work for the company. I couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, for me, they just make such a great solution, because when I'm working during the day using these microphones, I work for DPA. So I'm not going to say anything bad about DPA or anything. The mics are just fantastic. But when I am at home recording, it's the first mic I reach for, because I know I get that trueness. And if I want to EQ, I don't. I just move the mic.
Yeah.
I find out where it's resonating the best, mix it together. It's almost like getting out of the way. I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I learned that. I got to experience that. It's an exercise that everyone should have the honor and privilege of, being a part of at least once, of just, seeing you go to a drum kit and have a console with no EQ and actually move the mic to get different sounds, and basically move the mic until it sounded the way you want it to. And it was a very eye-opening experience, but it makes sense conceptually. But I just had never seen it done until we did that in Houston at that level of sophistication, where you could actually get really great tone with very little effort with
so
proper
true.
mic position.
It's so true, and it kind of makes you think that EQ in general. I don't think it was. I don't quote me on this, but I think it was only brought into the music world like in the '60s somewhere, or after all those great records from the '40s, '50s, and early '60s were made. EQ was something that was more deductive, and it was more to fix something. But those old records were made with great rooms, minimal amount of microphones, and even live. I think live has really benefited from today's technology, especially regarding Meyer and the systems that they're putting out. And I do agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, having a solution and getting out of the way when you can to sort of get that full picture. You can always artistically go for a vision that you're feeling, but you can always get back to that accurate, natural sound, which is awesome. Any aha moments like that you have that you can talk about, like when you just started, mixing, as far as like maybe A/Bing stuff, or
aha moments?
Yeah, like different microphones where you were using them, and you finally sort of just said, you know what, this is bringing me something that I can count on, more of a solution, that I can.
Yeah, well, doing, you mentioned the Metallica. I'm not involved with Metallica in the sense of like I've been to probably 19 live shows and hosted a lot of VIP tours, yourself included. I remember taking you to see Metallica.
That's a lot of earplugs. Yeah, I totally got
a lot of that. Yeah, so just getting to see that and talk to Mick a couple of times about, ask him questions about why he does some of the things he does. The underhead microphone. Yeah. Kind of using that, and the concept behind doing that, and in heavy metal, for example, you don't want loud, swishy, ringing cymbals forever. I mean, they're very gated, and there's a lot of, they just looking for attack and quick. It's all about being quickness in heavy metal. So that transient response is really, really important, and he uses underheads to A, capture that, and B, because Lars doesn't want a microphone stand blocking his
beautiful
view.
Face.
His view, yeah. So there's kind of dual purpose, but I started using it a lot in churches for the same reason, just kind of playing with the idea of underheads, and you can get some pretty interesting results. I don't see it used as often as you would think, but you can get some pretty amazing results trying underheads and then using them as, not only miking them just for the cymbals, but also for the kit. So, what I love about these is they're so versatile. You make a Velcro, you make a clip, you can kind of put this anywhere and mic quickly and effectively without a lot of extra hardware.
Yeah.
So that's really convenient.
Yeah, I remember I laughed when they came out with the accordion clip, and I worked for the company. And I was like, "Really, guys?" And then all of a sudden, I realized that, oh my God, that's such a niche that needs to be filled, because you have accordion players running all over doing this.
Yeah.
And now
magnetic piano clips. I mean, they're like things that you would think that makes all the sense in the world, but it's so easy to use and get great results quickly and efficiently.
And that microphone that you were holding up, I'm looking for mine, but I can't find it. I might have to have you hold yours up again. But if you pull out the back of it, you'll see that there's a little, just get the wire and pull it out of the windscreen.
Pull it of this out?
Yep, pull it all the way out. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Do it.
I'm on tape. You told me.
Do it, baby. Do it.
Say pull it out?
All the way.
All the way. I'm scared, Gabe.
Don't be afraid.
Oh, man.
Leonardo will buy you a new one.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, here it is.
There you go. So if you hold that up, that's an interference tube. So basically, this microphone is a miniature shotgun. It's a supercardioid pattern. It comes...
I've never seen this done.
No.
Gabe, I'm in awe right now, bro.
Yeah, so...
I'm not sure if this is awesome or if I broke it.
No, you didn't break it. Actually, talking about the current situation, that's where you would clean the mic as well. And on our website, we have great mic hygiene. You can clean your directionals as well as your Omni microphones. But
that's rad.
That has a rear port. It's a directional mic, and it makes the modifications in the acoustic world. So we're not modifying the focus in the electronic world, which means it stays pure. It's linear both on and off axis, and it can go up to for what you're using it for 152 dB SPL. And
it's a Swiss Army knife. You know what I mean? It has so many different applications.
No mic stands hanging around.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Stage. That's great. And you're using this underneath?
So I've seen it and use it when I do use these on underheads. You actually attach it Velcro clip. I use your Velcro clip attached to the actual cymbal stand under the cymbal.
So we're getting the big bell from that.
You're getting the big bell. Yep.
And then the tom-toms you're doing underneath as well.
Oh no, the tom-tom's on top for sure.
Top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
okay.
on top.
So you're going under cymbals, and you're going using overhead.
Yeah, underheads and over toms.
That's incredible, and it's got a high degree of rejection. So about at 135 degrees off axis, you can take it to the bank that whatever you're trying to reject, just point at that null point when you look at the polar plot. And you will greatly reduce that sound, but keep it as if it was on axis. It's very pure. So very, very cool microphone.
Yep.
So do we have any questions yet, Leo?
Not yet, Gabe, but
okay, cool. Okay, we'll keep rocking here. So maybe we should talk a little bit about, how you deal with monitoring. Like what acts when you're mixing live, you have so many musicians on stage. Are you using IEMs? Are you using wedge monitors? Both? What do you typically do, and what do you typically sort of discuss before you go out on tour with the team? As far as you get that call, like what's the next step?
Yeah, I think you want to lean towards, if you can, if budget permits, especially in a church setting, on in-ear monitors. I think that's kind of the way to go to reduce that already loud stage. Most churches are fighting the drum kit with shields and baffles or all of the above or both. And so I think in-ear monitoring is definitely the way I would recommend if asked.
Yeah. And shields to me are sort of like, I know they're essential sometimes, but they're sort of the enemy, because you get like the microphones, if they're not linear in the off axis, they just get bombarded at all angles.
Yeah. Or some have, the fishbowl is what I like to call it, right?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I don't know about you guys, but I really want to know how you make that drink. So if we don't have any questions right now, I want to move into the drink segment of here. We're not.
You want to go to the bonus round?
I do. I want to see. We're probably like 20 minutes in. Let's see what that looks like. Tell us what it is, and then right after you do that, I want to talk about what your favorite mic is, and then talk about some options for today's world of production, which we are now find ourselves in.
Great. Yeah. So for everyone, drink. Where did that come from? You got the church guy making a drink now. It's awesome.
Well, right? We're breaking all the barriers, man.
You're just breaking all the rules here.
Taking the walls down.
I like it.
You know, if you're at home, like I said, after you clean the counters and after you wash your hands, put the kids to bed. You know.
So I have washed my hands prior to this right here. So I touched the microphone, but I'm the one drinking. So hopefully we're okay here. So Gabe asked me just to kind of share. I have a passion for making drinks. It's kind of a hobby of mine, while I'm home. So I'm going to share with you how to make my favorite old fashioned, which is an original recipe. I call it the Four Horsemen. So it's called the Four Horsemen because you have to start with this high west bourbon. So you start with that. And then there are actually appropriately named 4 bitters you're going to use. You're going to use Angostura bitters, so this is pretty standard. Angostura bitters. And then you're going to use orange Angostura. And I'll give you ratios in just a second. You're going to use Fee Brothers cherry bitters.
So specific.
Yeah, this is just like sound, man. It's all, every little thing matters. It's like signal flow, right? Black walnut bitters. So I've got black walnut bitters, cherry bitters. These are both Fee Brothers. Angostura orange, Angostura bitters, and High West. And that's a proper old fashioned. And then what you have to do, now if you're a jazz purist, as I like to say, if you're a jazz purist, you're going to use a Demarra sugar cube. Only a Demarra sugar cube. It's the only way to go. But you have to muddle it and you have to mash it because it's a sugar cube and it takes time and we don't have time for that. So if you don't have that, this is the next best thing. This is Jack Rudy's Demarra syrup. Jack Rudy Cocktail Co. This is a Demarra syrup. This is handcrafted, handmade here in the South somewhere. And it is the next best thing. This is the ingredients is water, Demarra sugar, and some citric acid to probably preserve it a little bit. That's that. Okay, now here's the ratio, the fun part. Cocktail glass. I have a chilled glass with ice here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pour out some of that water that was sitting right there. You don't want that. What we're going to do is we're going to put that, leave that right there. That's chilling. So now what we're going to do, we are going to take a proper old fashioned is 3 ounces of bourbon, but I'm going to do 2.5 because this is for demo and I only want to show you. And I usually do 2.5 because it's very, very boozy at 3 ounces. So I'm going to do 2.5 ounces. This is the 1 ounce side. And I have to be very careful doing this because I'm sitting down. Usually you want to do this standing up, but I want you to see everything that I'm doing. So that's 1, that's 2.
You can hear all the little bottles. That's the noises. Yep. Sound great.
Yep, right here. And then
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
5 o'clock somewhere, definitely. So that's 2.5. And so I mix 2.5 ounces in a mixing glass without any ice first because I want all of the ingredients. So then I'm going to dash bitters. So 1 dash of that. 1 dash of this. I wish you could taste this because it tastes better than it looks.
Well, did you create this recipe?
I did create this recipe, my friend.
So yeah, this is great.
This is not something you can go to, Applebee's and order.
I know Jarrett's writing this all down right now.
Yep. So I've got 1 dash of each 4 bitters. I've got 2.5 of that, and then I'm gonna do a 1/4 ounce. So that's a little generous, but I like it a little sweet because straight bourbon, neat bourbon is a little, tough. So I'm gonna do about a 1/4 ounce of my little jigger there. Pour that in there. Then we're gonna add ice. So I'm gonna add my ice, and then we're gonna stir. I usually stir for no more than about 20 seconds because the longer I stir, the more this is going to dilute. And it's all on the wrist, Jared.
Listen to the transients of that microphone.
It's almost like almost like your music bowl, right?
It's great.
So there's that. And then you find yourself a proper old-fashioned glass, square ice cube. All right. The only thing I didn't do, you should garnish this with the Luxardo cherry, but then you strain and you pour. I don't know if you can hear this.
You know, with the core technology, you could put the mic right inside there. No.
We could do a bourbon commercial with these mics. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
incredible, man.
And that, my friend, is a proper Four Horsemen.
All right, so it's a beautiful drink. That's great. Cheers, man. Give me some.
Wow. I mean, it's really as good as it gets.
Oh man. So
I'll drink that later.
Before we leave this segment, if you said this already, I apologize, but why do you call it that?
Oh, so the Four Horsemen is a combination of a High West bourbon, right? And 4 different bitters. So it's pretty much a Western take on 4 bitters, High West bourbon, Western, 4 bitters, the Four Horsemen.
That's fantastic.
Patent pending, no trademark infringement. You can feel free to steal my recipe and call it your own. That's okay.
I wish they were sponsors. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So before we go on to, let's talk real quick about, you said something earlier that stuck in me, like, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
You know, so let's just guess and say that nobody wants to really gather 10 or 20,000 people anytime soon, unless everybody says there's a cure for this or there's some sort of path to an end to all this. I know the hot weather is one respite, but, you know, where do you think we're going?
And that's a great, very sobering question. Here I was listening to Pastor Stephen Furtick from Elevation Church this past weekend, and he said that a lot of us are hoping to get back to normal. We're using that language. You hear a lot of it lately, like, let's get back to normal. When are things going to get back to normal? And he basically said, in a very sobering, honest way, that normal is dead. Oh. And whether you like that or not, or can reconcile that, we have to realize that normal is gone. And his encouragement was, like, we need to begin to look forward to normal. There's a new normal. Yeah, we got to look forward to normal. And I really, really, like, it really resonated with me in the sense of, like, we have to begin to be creative and redefine, for all the church people, if there's any of those people here, basically said, looking, when Moses, saw the Egyptians chasing him behind him, he told his people when they were complaining they wanted to go back to slavery, he said, the Egyptians you see before you, you will never see again.
Interesting.
So pretty much the way we've done things, miking a drum kit with 20 mics, I think that's done. Yeah. I would say it's done, so that normal may be done for, but I think, where do we go from here? And we have to figure that out. We have to realize that normal is behind us and we need to look forward to a new normal, and we got to redefine everything. And to some that's sad, but others it's exciting and it's challenging and it's time to be creative and it's time to figure out, man, we have a lot of opportunity to kind of, what I'm thinking is that we're going to simplify, we're going to intensify, we're going to figure out what's really important, we're going to measure it, we're going to go back to making it simple and epic, which for me is exciting, honestly.
Yeah. It is. I mean, and there's all sorts of productions that are going.
I'm going to drink to that.
Yeah, please. Let me drink. I got my tea here.
Cheers, my friend. Cheers to you all. By the way. I wish you could have one of these. Next time, Gabe, I'll make you one.
I'm going to hold you to that. I'm drinking Tulsi Rose tea.
Yeah, well, I've got you. I've definitely got you.
A little more boring, but yeah, it's good. The types of productions that I think are currently going on, like recording studio projects, ADR replacement, broadcasting church, broadcasting the weather guy who's at home, or whether all that you see on TV, you hear the bad audio, and every once in a while you get the good audio. But something we were talking about the MMA. This is sort of the way we are broadcasting now. I'm using it through a little 4098 on a.
Yep, and I've got it right here too.
You got one too. So.
Got one too.
I just want to take a minute, and I don't want this to be salesy. And if you guys think it is, well, go pound sand. It's not. I love this stuff. But basically, this guy here for ADR replacement, for instance, if you're doing a dialogue replacement or translation, you could get an active cable system that we have, and actually hook this onto the MMA, this will take any of our miniature microphones as well as the active cable system, which takes our 19 millimeter mics like our 4011s and our 4015s and our 4006s and lets you put them into this as well.
Yeah.
Currently working on aggregating these to sort of work together. But for instance, if you're doing music, you get this little ORTF bar, right? And then you basically get an MMG cable, which will terminate into the microdot, and then you're able to plug it into this guy. So now just imagine you could put this in stereo mode, and I think we have a picture of the app that comes with this. If we put that up right now, hopefully, let me know if it's up, Jarrett, and you can basically do dual mono, you could do stereo, or you could do summed. So basically you have two channels to do stereo 4011s, or you can do a dialogue mic for a pastor working from home. You could do a boom microphone with an active MMPG cable. So it's sort of like that DPA Lego block mentality. But these products, you know, this MMA is something that isn't a giant seller for us, but it's very high quality. It's 24-bit, 96 kilohertz. It's 114 decibels of dynamic range. So it's greater than any mic you can put in it. And a way to do the broadcast from church, to do the stereo recordings, to do the weather guy at home. There's lots of apps today that are used for reporting, all kinds of things. So if you're looking for a way to do your production, no matter what it is, studio all the way to the weather guy, this is something you should test out. I'm not even saying buy them.
Yeah, Gabe, I think it's important too to know that, you know, when mine showed up, it's a USB cable into your computer. It recognizes it as a core device. It just shows up. There's no software to download. And this is perfect for, you know, not only that, but today, like podcasting and interview styles when you need two mics, you know, to have a conversation now.
Yeah.
And to have a conversation and record audio at a very high level, you know, very quickly, very easily, without a ton of gear, you know, preamps and all these, you know, this is quick, and this is that simple intensify thing that I like. I love how easy it was, and it was just pop and put on. And
yeah, and that's a great point. It is a core device, and it will mount on a PC or a Mac, and it will work with iPhones. So because iPhones can guarantee the quality level. So it's making phantom power from the iPhone as well, which is even more remarkable. So it's a great piece, and I would you know, urge everyone out there, if you're doing productions at church or whatever you're doing, get in touch with us and you know, borrow one, buy one, whatever, try them out. If you want intelligibility for what you're doing, that's the way to get there with just a minimal setup. And there's apps out there that'll do your video at 4K, like Filmic Pro is a great app that I use, which will do 4K video, and then you got 24, 96-bit audio. It's a great marriage. Yep. So what's your favorite mic before we get to a few questions?
Well, I do have a favorite. I actually use the 2011. I used the 2011. Gabe, I didn't mention this to you before in our run-throughs, but I love the 2011 on bass guitar. Actually, it's kind of a little secret, like actual on the cab itself is a little secret weapon. I use it on guitars. I use it on bass, but I have this configuration, and you're going to have to explain this I'll try to put it here on the...
Oh, there you go. I can see it better. Yep.
So I think this is a 2011. This is a preamp that's wired. You've got a gooseneck, and you've got a clip. So this might be 4 parts, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, so,
I'll name those parts when you're done.
Yeah, so this is a custom little way that some friends, my BNY friends, you know, got me hip to this. But I use this. This is my favorite mic when I would like to capture the snare and the hi-hat at the same time using one mic.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not really a fan of a lot of hi-hat usually. That's something that kind of, you know, and when I don't have to use a hi-hat mic and can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, this is awesome. So you want me to explain how I use this? Or?
Yeah, but we want to feed 2 birds with 1 crumb. We don't want to kill any birds.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little...
Okay, please explain, yeah.
Awesome. So usually, you know, if you're a right-handed drummer, right? We have right-handed drummers, you're looking at the snare, you know, top view, and I'm putting the mic towards the left over here because usually I have a stand or something attaching some microphone towards the center of the snare on axis. That's the drill. That's usually how we do it. I do it a little different. I put this on the right side, so the actual playing hand side of a right-handed drummer, facing the snare, but also kind of like pointed towards the hi-hat a little bit. And I kind of bend it over and clip it to the snare, right? So I've got no stands. I'm clipped to the snare. I'm facing the the center point of the snare, but I'm also give a little bit of angle, a little love, show a little love towards the hi-hat. And this way I can capture everything going on with the snare, and I can get about as much hi-hat as I can handle. I get that for free, no additional charge using this kind of 2-for-1 snare hi-hat microphone, and I don't have any stands, and it's very, very small. It's very inconspicuous. And I love these clips because they have teeth and they don't move. They stay on, and it's got a gooseneck. So it gives me, I can create angle. I can create, so it's,
and, and sometimes too, being that far away from the hi-hat, we all have sometimes we have to mic them close. Like I'm doing a project now where you can see I've got a 4099 on my hi-hat. Can you see that?
Yep.
And I need it because the song I'm doing is I need to have just hi-hat sometimes. But I'm totally in your camp. So where you are, and I don't really like that sound where you're right on top of the hi-hat. If it's jazz or something, it doesn't really require it. Do you find yourself angling the mic if you're getting too much hi-hat or not enough and just sort of reject it a little bit?
Well, I want to grow up to be like you one day. So I try to use my microphone technique, as I try to use it a lot to try to, before I reach for the EQ, before I reach for filters, I try to go to the mic if time permits and do what I can to give every little slight movement gives me a whole different, color. Yeah. So I try to do that whenever possible. And if not, you gotta.
And you know what? At that distance, you're getting a real accurate picture because I think the proximity setting on that mic is like 12 inches, I'm pretty sure. And it's an interesting mic. It's two miniature mics that are in tandem with each other for more surface area. So it's a little bit.
I knew that. I just want to make sure you knew that.
Yeah, I just forgot.
Two mics.
But here, we didn't talk earlier about this because I just pulled mine up. I remade yours.
Okay.
And this is the 2011 capsule. This is the active cable, just so we're super clear. This is a drum clip so what this really enables you to do is this gooseneck is called a GSM 4000. Okay. And what that does for the larger capsule microphones is it allows you to use all the 4099 clips. So you can now put this on a violin, or you could put it on a cello, or you could put it on a drum, whatever you want. This is a drum, GSM 4000. This is an MMP. You have an ES cable, which is an XLR. The good news here is I've just changed. I've just seen yours, and I've upped you to now be able to work with the
a micro dot. There you go.
So boom. So now I just plug. Just imagine getting two of these and plugging it into your iPhone for a stereo recording of a whole drum set, or put one on the piano, put one on the drum set. You're fine. So really cool, and these are all modular, so you can take this out and put it on a C preamp or an A to get more SPL in it, and so like Lego blocks. Going back to that Lego block thing, and that's really cool. I think we need to take. Okay, you go, and then we'll take questions.
I was just going to say that this is a fraction of the size of any other microphone that will not be named. So it's nice. It's really, really compact. It's very, very dynamic in terms of how you can use it, but also. It sounds great. So it checks a lot of boxes.
I call it the DPA rock and roll mic. That and the 4099s are just great for any stage. You do your percussion, you do your drums, you do your bass cabinet, you do your guitar cabinets. You're using two models.
Yep.
Clean, minimal mic stands is good. I think we need to get to some questions.
Let's go.
Leo.
Definitely. We got some questions here for Daniel. First one is from Neaton. Could you please elaborate on how different it sounds when you mic cymbals from top and from under the cymbals?
That's a good question. It's more of a flavor. If you're going to do it for aesthetics because you need some cymbals and you don't have, you don't want to use overhead stands, it is two different sounds. So it's more of a color. And I like to say like the way I describe it is more these days is like ice cream flavors. It's like, well, do you like chocolate? Do you like vanilla or strawberry? It's like, well, on any given day, I like all of the above. So it's just, what is the flavor? What are you chasing? It's something that you have to try and then decide if it's something that works for you.
I think to add upon that too, I think it really reduces sometimes the phasing you get from cymbals that are moving constantly. If your mics are on top or they're too much on top of the cymbals, or I don't like to go right on top of the cymbals. I like to go a little further back and sort of get a little bit of the resonance of the toms. But if you're under the cymbals and you're in a rock setting like Metallica, I mean, you can't get any more rock than that. You're getting definition, you're getting the cymbal, and you're reducing any sort of like phase relationships with other drums by hiding them there. You're just getting what you need for that. I know that McCartney's guys use the same exact thing. when I was discussing that with them too. So that's a great question. Do we have any more?
Yeah, we got another one here from Valerie. Daniel, have you done anything related to time code when mixing live?
Time code?
Good question.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've done some things using Digital Performer. One of the shows I was out with an artist who was picked up by T-Mobile, and we were doing a tour, and his entire show was spacebar, pretty much. Video, lights, audio. There's a lot of automation built in.
To take that question a little further, which is, I think is a good question. Is that Valerie who asked that? Please?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you ever do productions where you know the end result's going to be a video that's going to be released? And do you ever have to interface and sort of get their time code, or, slave to their master, or they slave to your master to get it all set up?
Not as much in the church setting. That's a little deep for most, I think.
Okay. Awesome.
Ministries.
Yeah. We have any more questions?
Yeah, we got one from Adam. What's your preferred placement inside a grand piano with the 4099 for live performances that are multi-tracked?
You asking me or asking Gabe?
I think it's Daniel.
I think.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, live pianos are very tricky live. I mean, they're very. I think they're very challenging. So especially in churches, I would, but probably I would say get a Nord if it was up to me. But honestly, if you had to pick where to put, I would kind of pick the hole and find the hole, and I take a 4099 and put one in the hole. I like to use a pair and put it somewhere else. And really, it's just that's one of those things where the microphone technique really comes into play, because you have to decide: do you want a dark piano? Do you want a bright piano? What kind of sound are you looking for? Because you don't have a button that's like bright piano, dark piano. You have to make it use what you got. You have one sound. So crafting your sound, it's where that microphone technique and understanding that technique, and then really experimentation really comes into play. So I would say, what are you looking for? And then chase it.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I would say that, just to add a little bit of comment onto that is, what's the end result? Let's work our way backwards when you're dealing with piano. Like, is it classical? Is it Rachmaninoff? Is it country and western? If it's going to be something where you're fighting other elements and you need to close the lid, the 4099s are great, because that off axis really helps them stay together and really still sound like a great pair of microphones. You could put them in an ORTF, sort of looking at the piano, aiming towards the low and the high. I like to do a couple unorthodox things, is to try to get the length of the low end with one mic, and then sort of skirt in between. The interesting thing with piano is that where they are, like, let's just say you're in a room and there's no rug, and you're getting a whole lot of honk out of the mid-range of the piano, and it's just killing everything else. It's killing the beauty of the mix. With those microphones, if you're sort of coming straight down on the piano and the middle's too much, you sort of could just go doop like that. And now what you've done, you've actually EQ'd and lowered levels, because the off axis of the mic is so good right here. By doing this, you're making this mid-range lower in volume, and you're pointing towards what you want to be louder, sort of like the way you would mic a choir. Do the same thing with the piano, and with two mics, you can actually utilize as if you had four mics.
Yep. So to answer your question very, very specifically, I would say I'd put one towards the hole, one towards the strings, and I'd kind of blend the two to find the flavor that I'm searching for whatever the program material is. But live pianos are challenging.
Yeah, they are. They are. Well, we have some more, Leo. We
got one more here.
Awesome.
Oliver, what is your setup for ambient mics, and any placement tricks?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a great ambient mics.
Is he talking about for a live performance, I guess?
I assume so. Yeah.
You're saying in church or on a stage live, you just want to, you're using ambient mics, I'm assuming, for the in-ear monitors, or for the recording, or for both?
He's not specific on the question, but maybe you can answer both. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, with interesting concept, because what you want to capture, for in-ear monitoring, you want the musicians to feel like they're in the room, not, in a studio, right? So you mic the room and you want to get height off the stage and kind of fire using a combination, at Hillsong, the church I'm part of, we always use a combination of like a pair of, I'll just say 414s and then some shotguns, right? So I like both, right? Because you're getting kind of the close proximity and you're getting depth and then you're blending that. So that's a kind of a nice, other people use for ambient mics, they use them flown in the air, hanging in the air, if it's a permanent install in a church, and that works nice too. Again, it's kind of, what is it for? If you'd like, I love the idea of capturing the room now. I think that's cool. But I think moving forward, capturing an empty room doesn't sound too fun. So I would.
Yeah. And you
got to define, you got to go back to defining what are you trying to accomplish and then find the best way to recreate that.
Yeah. And I
just realizing these are really good tools. These actually are, the idea, the whole concept of the conversation is that these are linear. What you get in, what you put into it, you're going to get out. So that's really, really important. It's not, your off-axis response. Actual capturing what is real is very, very important. And these are great tools to help you gather good content, good source material, which is huge.
Super answer. If I could add a quick thing is that, in a church setting, you're typically going to be either archiving because, you want to sort of get the crowd emotional content, or you're going to be, archiving, or you're going to be making a video out of this. And some of the guests we had on earlier, it's intense because they're mixing for like 20,000 people. And it's always the issue of from the stage, the song is over, people start clapping. It's that divide. It's as soon as the song is almost over, people start to clap is when the transient quality of the microphones really are going to help you or sort of like really hurt you. The one microphone that I know that, who do we have on? Brad Maddox. He uses this guy here.
The Orb.
So this is the 5100. This is a surround sound 5.1 mic, super light, and put this over the crowd, facing the PA, facing the PA like this, and you're getting a very tight, with not a lot of delay because the mics are so tight, and you're getting two rear microphones to capture the whole space. So with one microphone, you can capture everything. Another cool trick with our mics, I know, and probably you can use them with other mics, is one band I know they're getting two shotguns and they're getting a Y cable and they're hooking them to one XLR.
Yep.
And it actually works. And you could do it on the edge of the stage, pointing out towards the audience. And again, what Daniel said about the linearities, when they start clapping, or whatever, all those different transients happening at different times are going to be picked up, accurately. They're not going to be all jumbled together. And so that's
and I think the good thing about ambient right now, and especially what we're doing is, this is going to become much more important as we're watching these things. As I'm watching a lot of church onlines that sound like they're in a studio, but they're in a large room. It's like, well, there's a mental disconnect, right?
Your brain's missing some information. Yeah.
There's a disconnect between the space, what I'm seeing, and what I know it should sound like. So that's the kind of thing where you want to connect your audience. I'll do a commercial for my friend Luke from Bethel, who does a production online. He has a resource where the online mix at Bethel sounds epic. There's no other way to say it. So, check out that resource. It's a great resource. Ask Luke, is it really easy to get a hold of? And, it's the idea of connecting the audience with what you see and what you hear is huge, because then otherwise your brain starts to, you get a little, there's a disconnect.
Yeah, your brain starts to actually readjust. If the picture you're getting, it doesn't, even if it sounds great, if it doesn't sort of capture the space you're in, there's some sort of
psychoacoustics maybe.
Yeah. And you're doing something really cool at Meyer with some immersive stuff right now, right?
Yes, we're doing some very cool things with spatial sound and with active acoustics. We have a product called Constellation that allows us to change the perceived size of a space that uses early reflections. So it's flexible acoustics, and that's awesome. The other thing is a spatial sound. We have something new coming and exciting where we're bringing our processor, our Galaxy processor, we're bringing the live matrix to life, and that allows you to do spatial mixing. So to actually mix things positionally in a very, easy, simple way. And that's the thing, right? Like we want tools that are not,
So in a live way, so we could have like a three-piece band on stage, and you would have speakers above even, and below, and then you'll be able to live mix those into an immersive environment?
Well, like in a setting, whenever we get back to settings, if we get back to rooms, right, it's always the idea of like, when you have a 100-voice choir, you've got, 4 acoustic guitars, 4 electric guitars, 6 keyboard players, and you have a PA that's left and right. That's a tough gig, right, to make all that, make all that intelligible. So, I've played with some stuff here in my home. I have a system, and, where should the pad live in a mix? It's like, well, the pad is like a warm blanket, right? Like the pad can live all around you. The choir can be above you and behind you, as if you were kind of on stage. So recreating using space, putting some of those non-time sensitive, instruments and effects around you is really, really gives you a sense of space, and it puts you inside. And it's what, Dolby's been doing with Atmos. And I think like those, neural and DTS,
Clang does that.
Clang does that. I think all those formats, especially now as we're watching films on headphones and in homes, all that stuff's going to become a whole lot more prevalent and move.
I think you're right. And it's a transitional period too, because, we're all used to, I call it mic muscle memory. We're all used to rooms that we've been listening to for 10, 20, 30 years. Like I worked at NBC for a while, and, we were used to hearing with the same control room speakers, and everybody who's been listening and gets used to listening to a certain way, the immersive stuff makes their head blow up.
Yep.
Because they just hear it, they're like, is this like something that's, cool and just sort of a trick, or is it really the binaural experience that I'm hearing when I don't have any, when I'm just hearing with my ears?
Yep.
And I think it's a great point you made where going forth, we have less in the production, but we can provide this experience for people to be there. I mean, even though we came out with a binaural headset, it's somewhere around here, but here, this guy here, like, it's super cool, and it could be plugged into the MMA as well, but 2 microphones in your ears, walk around, capture sounds, capture walking on the beach, capture any sound field that you want. And now you have an immersive experience. I think that's going to be the norm. I think you're spot on.
Yeah, but I think I'm looking forward to the day someone's listening who can go out and make this, or I'm sure they already have. My friends at Microsoft, I'm sure, are working on this already. But
Bill's hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. So just the idea of, I'm a Ducks fan, right? The Ducks, Anaheim Ducks here, and I would love to.
Fan?
I'm a hockey fan. Yeah.
I love
the Ducks, man. My brother-in-law works for the Ducks. Fan. I love the Ducks. Yeah. So I don't know when I'm going to a Ducks game, but I said, hey, Randy, figure out a way in VR to take me to the Ducks game where I'm sitting with other people and just watching the game, live, but in VR, like transport me to the game without going to the game. And I think that idea of like where audio and where these microphones and where things are going to have to do to recreate that experience, watch it live because it's being played live as if it was live. They can still play. I just don't want to go there. So bring me to the game.
And you're absolutely right. You're spot on. I mean, everything from remote doctors to watching a car race. I did a project last year with Dolby Atmos where we went to the actual racetrack, the NHRA, and they're selling this experience you're describing exactly to the home audience, to the guy that doesn't.
Somebody beat me to it. I got to.
Well, I mean, it's coming. I think it's coming to Broadway.
Yeah,
I really do.
I think it's got to come.
You're going to have immersive streams coming from Broadway, coming from. There was a band last week on YouTube that did a Swedish bar performance in an empty bar, and everybody subscribed to it. It sounded pretty good, and looked good. And if we can't do anything else right now, and we need to keep our chops up, and we need to keep our knowledge up, maybe the immersive and the less microphone and things that will stream easier and things that will connect to all of our, iPhones and everything that we have is the way it's going. In complement to the way it was. I'm sure it'll come back, but I think, like you said, it's going to be shifted, and there's going to be.
It'll be different, but I think it'll be exciting.
Yeah,
it'll be cool. It's going to need to be cool.
You're awesome to talk to, man. You're flowing with so many great ideas, and I think Meyer's lucky to have you, man. It's I just love the way you think.
Thank you.
But you have a foot sort of in the old way of doing things, and you have a foot in the future, and that's the way you should be, because you need your head in the clouds and you need your feet on the ground.
I like that. It's good.
Do you have any more questions, Leonardo?
No, not right now.
Do you want to sing us a song or anything? No?
No, I don't think our viewers would.
Well, you know, I think I want to talk about one more thing before we start heading down the path of ending this great thing, this great discussion. When you're dealing, do you still do a lot of church mixing? Do you still go do sermons?
You know, last year I traveled so much for work, Gabe. I traveled about 250 days last year. You know, for Meyer. So it's a lot.
So you were out working.
So when I love being able to attend church on Sunday. I do more of church online even before we had to. Yeah. But you know, I don't do as much. I'll say it this way: I don't do as much mixing as I would like.
Yeah, well, maybe we could table this for another discussion. But I'm always fascinated by, you know, obviously people go to church to hear the sermon, or they listen to the worship band. They get their emotional content from one of those two things. And I've always noticed that in the pastors, there's a couple different kinds of pastors. There's the guy who likes to walk everywhere while he's talking. There's the guy who hugs the podium.
Yep.
You know, and then there's the guy who wants to be wireless and walk in front of the PA system. You know, there's that guy.
Yep.
And how you deal with all the different sort of aspects of all that. Is there any sort of, you know, wisdom you could add to that? But, and if no, because you've been out 365 days a year, I totally understand. But
yeah, I think working with pastors, liaisoning with team, it's like, you know, I would say 8 of the 10 years I was in ministry, I did it wrong. I was 8.5 of the 10 years I did it wrong. So most people do it wrong, and the wrong is just not communicating, not developing relationship, even with pastor and team, and just making sure, hey, you know, the pastor doesn't want things to feed and for his voice to be destroyed and to cause an interruption and be distracting. So just communication and education and relationship, and you know, you can use your own style and joking, or whether it's serious, or just kind of, you know, we've got to be people.
And everything's out there right now too. I mean, you could go online and you could hear really bad audio and video and really good stuff. And like, it's just so much more relaxing when you can understand the words, and that's what you're really there for. That's why you're tuning in. It's so important. It's more important than the video. When the brain gets the information, we're satisfied with that. If the video goes away, we still need that audio information. So it is
yeah, but I think that goes back to the conversation that's really cool about the perfect loudspeaker. You know, the perfect loudspeaker.
No,
it doesn't exist. Like when you do sound right, it just disappears, right?
It disappears.
Like
man.
All the technology goes away. It just becomes natural.
Yeah.
When it's unnatural, then it's like we have a problem. You know, when you sound like there's too much low end, when it doesn't sound real, when it's not original, when it's not what it's supposed to be, that's when people notice that things are wrong. It's like when it's right, nobody notices because that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's the lament of the audio engineer, right? When nobody says anything, you sort of walk away and go,
no love for the audio engineer. You do a good job, and that's what's supposed to happen. You know, but one feedback and you're getting an email. Yeah, or a text message.
You're totally spot on. And then the mission team brings you a video they made from Africa or wherever they were traveling, and it's just horrid. And
yeah, it's just clipping, but the energy is good, and nobody cares, and it's kids, and it's, you know, choirs, and
it's just amazing. It's just amazing. You know, is there anything that you would like to add to our conversation? Anything, any messages or?
Well, I think the new normal message is huge on just figuring out where to go. Like my recommendation for everybody is just to simplify and intensify. Find out what that looks like for you, right? You know, people online are giving you so much grace now, right? I think too many churches are doing too much, you know, video one time, post 11 times. If that's all you can do that. But people want the relational connection of live. And even if it's a little raw and unedited, but it's authentic, you know what I mean? And it's real, and it's conversational, and it's full of mistakes, but nobody cares because we're all at home with kids running around. You know, home is a zoo. So just be real, be authentic, realize there's grace, do your best, and let's just, you know,
you let your kids out of the closet now.
No, my kids are out here running around. I just have a great mic with good rejection. You can't hear them.
They've been doing great. Yeah,
they're doing great. So I think that's the charge, is just, hey, let's do our best. Let's figure out how to be innovative. Let's figure out how to be creative. Let's come together in new ways. Realize that what we used to do, you know, like my friend Brad Wright from Texas says, that dog won't hunt. it's not going to hunt anymore. Like it's not going to work. And we just go forward and figure it out and have fun while we're doing it, man.
Yeah, create your off-studio. That's what I call this. You know, I do my office and my studio together, keep being creative and keep rocking out there. Yep. Daniel, we can't thank you enough for coming on. Friend. You're awesome, and promise me this year we'll do something together with the immersive stuff.
I'm looking forward to it, my friend. We need to. It's 90 days past due. But yes.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. Yeah, my fault, man. I got hurt. But anyhow, thanks everyone out there. If you have any questions that are unanswered, we will get to it. And this Thursday at 2, we'll have Bill Evans and Richard Lettner on, the famous sax guy, and we'll have a great time. Thanks so much. Everybody take care out there and take care of your loved ones. Mm-hmm. Peace.